Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. We hadn't spoken in 3 days. Not because we were fighting. No shouting, no slamming doors, no name-calling. Just silence. Cold, humming silence like the kind you hear in an empty church after midnight. I knew things were off when she turned the thermostat down to 63 degrees. That was her way of making a point. Not an argument, a statement. She always did that. Changed small things when she wanted me to notice something big. Moved my shoes from the front door when she was mad. Reorganized the fridge when she was upset. Switched her shampoo brand when she was feeling distant. But this time, it wasn't just the temperature. There was something in the air. Like I'd been replaced, and nobody told me. That morning, she poured herself coffee, didn't offer me any, and left without a word, wearing a leather jacket I'd never seen before and perfume that didn't smell like her. I stood in the kitchen, holding my mug like an idiot, wondering when my wife turned into a stranger. She came home late that night, said one sentence before disappearing into the bedroom. "Elliot, I think I need space." That was it. No eye contact. No pause. No, "I love you." I didn't sleep. I lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of our old ceiling fan, and wondering if this was the beginning of the end, or the end of a beginning I never understood. The next day, she smiled at her phone 3 times. I counted. Not once did she smile at me. I didn't ask questions. I didn't demand answers. I just watched, like some weak narrator in a story I wasn't writing anymore. And that night, I stepped back. I made dinner for one. I folded her laundry and left it in a neat pile outside the bedroom. I cleared my side of the bathroom sink. I gave her space. And that's when she started unraveling. Not immediately. No, it started small. She forgot her keys twice. She snapped at the cat. She burnt toast. Then she called me from work, crying. She said, "I don't know what's happening to me." But I did. "You wanted space, Renee. But you didn't want the silence that came with it." And what I found, hidden under the couch cushion 2 nights later, changed everything. It was supposed to be a normal night. I had just finished microwaving leftover risotto and was about to eat alone for the 6th evening in a row. She was in the bedroom again, lights off, doors shut, silence. The kind of silence that doesn't feel like peace, but like punishment. I wasn't even mad anymore. I was just tired. Tired of tiptoeing. Tired of reading meaning into every blink and breath. Tired of wondering if this space was really just a dress rehearsal for a divorce. That's when I dropped my fork. It clattered and rolled under the couch. I bent down, expecting to retrieve a dust bunny or maybe an old sock. But instead, my fingers landed on something foreign. Smooth. Hard plastic. I pulled it out slowly. It was a compact, the kind you keep makeup in. Gold. Engraved. Fancy. Not hers. My wife doesn't wear makeup unless we're going somewhere special, which we hadn't done in months. And she definitely didn't own anything this delicate, this expensive. I opened it. The mirror was cracked. And tucked behind it was a photo, one of those tiny, candid Polaroid-style prints. 2 people, blurry mid-laugh. One of them was unmistakably Renee. The other was a man I'd never seen before. He had a hand on her thigh and that kind of smug, easy grin you only wear when you think you've already won. My heart didn't drop. It didn't even beat faster. Instead, I felt a strange, cold wave of clarity, like I had just snapped out of a coma. I placed the compact back where I found it. Didn't mention it. Didn't cry. Just stared at my untouched dinner while everything inside me rearranged itself. At 2:12 a.m., she shook me awake. I had fallen asleep on the couch with the TV still whispering reruns. Her face was pale, panicked. Her hands were shaking. She said, "Elliot, I think I made a mistake." I blinked. Sat up. What kind of mistake? She didn't answer. Instead, she sat next to me, knees tucked to her chest like a guilty teenager. And for the first time in weeks, she looked scared. Not annoyed, not cold, but truly shaken. "I didn't think you'd actually pull away," she whispered. "I thought you'd fight for me." That line hit harder than any confession. Because I had fought. I fought every time I apologized first. Every time I adjusted myself to fit the silence. Every night, I waited for her to come home while pretending I wasn't worried. Now she was spiraling because I finally did what she asked. I gave her space. And here's the twist she didn't see coming. I didn't want her back. Not the version of her that had makeup compacts with strangers' faces inside. Not the woman who punished me for being consistent, patient, and kind. But I didn't say any of that. Instead, I said, "You should get some sleep." She nodded slowly, like she knew something had shifted between us forever, like she realized that I wasn't coming to fix this, not this time. As she walked away, I noticed her foot hover near the couch, almost like she saw the compact and thought about picking it up. But she didn't, and neither did I. Not yet. The next morning felt like a simulation. She acted like nothing happened. She made coffee, for both of us, for the first time in weeks, and set my mug in front of me like she hadn't just broken into tears 12 hours earlier. "Hazelnut creamer, right?" she asked, smiling. My hand stayed still on the table. Her voice was light, but her eyes were darting, checking, measuring, reacting to every micro-expression on my face. I didn't smile back. I sipped the coffee. It tasted like obligation. She tried small talk. The weather. Her co-worker's new haircut. Some random podcast about unsolved crimes. I nodded through it all, pretending not to hear the ringing in my ears. Every word she said sounded like it came from behind a glass wall. All I could see was that photo. That man's hand on her thigh. Her laughing like I'd never seen in months. Maybe years. I finally broke the surface with one question. "Who's Micah?" She froze. I saw her spine straighten like someone had just poured ice water down it. Her spoon clinked against the mug. She didn't look at me. Then she said the most infuriating thing I've ever heard. "Where did you hear that name?" Not "he's just a friend." Not "why are you asking?" Not even denial. She wanted to know how I found it. That told me everything. I set my mug down calmly. "He's the one in the photo, right? The one in the compact you accidentally left under the couch." She blinked. Once. Twice. Her jaw tightened. Then, suddenly, she got up. Not a word. Just walked to the sink, poured the coffee down the drain, and stood there with her back to me. I heard her breathing change, shallow, fast. I waited. Finally, she spoke. "We dated. Years ago. Before you." Another pause. "We stayed friends. Kind of." That kind of hit like a sucker punch. I leaned forward. "Are you seeing him now?" She turned to face me, and for once, her expression was brutally honest. No masks, no fake smiles. Just exhaustion. "Shame." She whispered. "But it's over." I laughed. Not out of humor, but because the absurdity of it all finally broke through the numbness. "It's over because I found out. Or because you realized you still live here?" She didn't answer. There it was. The truth. Sloppy, unceremonious, and not even worth a dramatic climax. She had been reconnecting with her ex, not out of love, not even lust, but because I had become too quiet, too easy, too available. And the worst part? I had blamed myself. I had written journal entries asking what I'd done wrong, how I could be better, what I could fix. But the only thing broken was her respect for what we built. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just stood up, grabbed my coat, and said, "Micah can have your space now." As I walked to the door, she chased me down the hallway. "Elliot, please, don't walk away like this." I stopped, turned, looked her dead in the eye. "I gave you what you asked for, and you filled it with him." I left, but I didn't go far. I needed her to sit in that silence for once. I didn't go to a hotel. I didn't crash at a friend's place. I went to the one spot she'd never look for me. My brother's cabin just outside of Fox Hollow, a quiet stretch of pine trees, bad cell service, and the constant smell of damp wood. I hadn't been there in over a year, and honestly, I wasn't even sure the plumbing still worked. But the silence? It was cleaner than the silence she left behind. It didn't hum with betrayal. It didn't ask me what I'd done wrong. It just let me breathe. I lasted 4 days. On the 5th, I made the mistake of driving back into town to grab groceries and some decent coffee. I was standing in the aisle comparing prices on instant oatmeal, still pretending like I had a normal life, when I heard her voice. "Elliot." I didn't turn around right away. I thought maybe I was hallucinating. But then I smelled her perfume, the new one, the one she started wearing when the lies began. When I turned, there she was, standing 2 feet away. No makeup, puffy eyes, like she hadn't slept, or had cried herself dry. She was holding a box of cereal she wasn't going to buy. We both knew it. "What are you doing here?" I asked. Not angry, not soft, just tired. She swallowed. I went to the house. It was empty. I panicked. "You asked for space. I gave it to you." "I didn't ask you to disappear," she snapped, then immediately softened. I didn't think you'd actually leave." There it was again. That line. That bizarre expectation that I was supposed to absorb every hit, stay rooted like some human punching bag, always waiting, always understanding. I didn't leave, I said. I just stopped standing still. She reached out, touched my arm. The way you might touch someone standing near a ledge. Carefully, hesitantly. I made a mistake. I see it now. Micah was never. She paused, looked away. He was just noise. Background noise. You were the constant. And I ruined that. Her words felt rehearsed. Polished. Like she had practiced them in front of a mirror, or worse, with someone else coaching her. I pulled my arm away gently. You didn't just ruin it, I said. You lit it on fire and blamed me for the heat. A woman passed us in the aisle, pushing a cart full of paper towels and frozen peas, eyeing us like we were part of a bad soap opera. I didn't care. Renee stepped closer, desperate now. Please, just give me a chance to fix this. I've already blocked him. I told him it was a mistake. He knows I'm done. And what about me? I asked. Am I supposed to just pick up where we left off? Pretend I didn't find a piece of your double life buried in the couch cushions? Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't trust them. Not yet. Not when I had been invisible for so long. Not when her grief only showed up once I walked away. I miss you, she whispered. You miss control, I replied. And with that, I grabbed my oatmeal, turned down the next aisle, and left her standing there, cereal box trembling in her hands like she was the one who got abandoned. But this time, she was the one watching me disappear. The cabin sat in silence that evening, tucked beneath gray skies and pine shadows, untouched by her world or mine. I had just finished chopping firewood and was halfway through a lukewarm cup of instant coffee when I heard tires on gravel. I froze mid-sip. No one comes out here without calling. No one except her. But when I opened the front door, she wasn't standing there. Instead, there was a box. Medium-sized. No note. Just plain cardboard with my name scrawled in rushed, familiar handwriting. The kind you use when your hands are shaking and your heart is louder than your thoughts. For a long time, I didn't touch it. I stood in the doorway like a man staring at a live wire. Part of me thought maybe she'd come back around the corner. Wait to see if I opened it. But she didn't. The wood stayed still. Eventually, I picked it up and brought it inside. Inside the box was a layer of tissue paper. Then photos. Printed, glossy photos. Not digital. Not screenshots. Actual photographs. Us. From years ago. A trip to Vermont. Our first Christmas in the apartment. Me making a mess in the kitchen trying to bake her birthday cake. There was one of us dancing barefoot in the living room. A photo I didn't even remember being taken. Beneath the photos was a stack of handwritten letters. Each one dated. Each one addressed to me. The earliest was from 4 months ago. The most recent? 2 days before she said she needed space. The handwriting shifted, from firm to frantic, from controlled to smudged. Her voice bled through the ink. Confusion. Frustration. Then guilt. A lot of guilt. She wrote things like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I wish I could tell you how lost I feel, but I know you'd just try to fix me. I keep looking at you and wondering why you stay. And then, halfway through the stack, something shattered. I saw Micah again today. I told myself it was innocent, but I didn't stop it. And now I don't know how to look you in the eyes. I kept reading. Every line clawed at me. Part confession, part apology, part emotional ransom. But the worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was how she described me. Not cruelly. No, that would have been easier. Instead, she described me as safe. Predictable. Good. She called me the steady heartbeat in a life that felt like drowning. But instead of holding on, she swam toward the storm. Because I was too good, too constant, too easy to believe in. That's what broke me. Not the affair. Not the lies. But the fact that somewhere in her twisted logic, my love had made her feel trapped. At the very bottom of the box was a small velvet pouch. Inside it, her wedding ring. Not mine. Hers. The one I'd saved up for. The one she chose. The one she used to kiss before leaving for work, like a ritual. She had included a note with it, just one line. You deserve someone who fights to stay, not someone who tests how far she can drift. I sat on the floor with all of it, the photos, the letters, the weight of the pouch in my hand, and I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat there, surrounded by the proof that I hadn't been crazy, hadn't been dramatic, hadn't imagined the distance. She had been leaving long before she asked for space. 3 days passed after the box arrived. I didn't respond. I didn't text, didn't call. I didn't acknowledge a single letter, photo, or tear-stained confession she'd left me. Not because I wanted to hurt her. That would have required me to still feel something sharp. And honestly, by that point, it wasn't pain anymore. It was fatigue. The kind that lives in your bones. The kind that doesn't even bother flinching when someone tries to come back. But late one night, just after midnight, I woke up to the sound of music outside the cabin. Not animals. Not wind. Music. I sat up slowly. It was faint, but familiar. Something old. Something from a playlist we made years ago. Ben Folds, I think. She used to hum it while folding laundry. I looked out the window and froze. Her car was in the driveway. The headlights were off, but the driver's door was open. And in front of the porch, standing under the weak glow of a flashlight taped to the railing, was Renee, holding a speaker, wearing my hoodie. Playing our song like this was some kind of rom-com grand gesture. Except this wasn't a movie, and I wasn't interested in watching the ending she had in mind. I opened the door, but didn't step outside. "Renee, what are you doing?" She smiled. Not wide, more like hopeful. "Fragile. I figured you wouldn't answer, so I brought the apology to you." I stared at her, at the speaker, at the absurdity of it all. "You thought music would fix this?" She lowered the speaker, biting her lip. "No, but I thought maybe if you saw me trying, really trying, you'd see I mean it this time." "Mean what?" I asked, stepping onto the porch now. "That you're sorry I found out? That you didn't get away with it clean?" She flinched, but I didn't stop. "You left a ring in a box, Renee. You wrote letters instead of talking to me. You used space as a cover for cheating. And now you're standing here playing songs like that erases anything." Her voice cracked. "It's not erasing. It's asking. Begging, if I have to. You were the best thing in my life, and I threw it away because I didn't know how to sit still with someone who actually loved me. That's on me. But I need you to know, Micah was a mistake. He was never the future. You were." I shook my head. "No, I was the backup. The safe place to land once your thrill wore off." She took a step forward. "Let me in. Please. Just for tonight. We don't have to talk. Just let me sleep next to you. Let me feel like I haven't lost everything." And that was the line. Not the cheating. Not the lying. But this. The request to borrow comfort from the very person she had shattered. To crawl into the warmth of a man she had turned cold. I stepped back. "No." Her face fell. "Elliot." "No," I repeated. "You don't get to light the house on fire and then ask to sleep in the ashes." She stood there, stunned. Silent. I reached for the door and paused. "Go home, Renee. Wherever that is now." And I shut the door. Gently. No slams. No theatrics. Behind it, I heard her sob once. Just once. Then the shuffle of her feet. The music clicked off. The engine started. And just like that, she left again. Only this time, it wasn't my heart she was walking away from. It was her own reflection. The part she couldn't unsee anymore. I thought the worst part was over. That after the box, the music, the porch confrontation, I could start climbing out of whatever wreckage she'd left behind. But pain doesn't just live in moments. It echoes in people. And sometimes, the silence of others hurts more than the betrayal itself. It started with a text from my sister-in-law, Molly. Just 5 words. She told me she's sorry. I stared at the screen for a long time, not sure what shocked me more, the fact that Renee had reached out to her or the implication behind it. I called Molly immediately. She answered on the second ring. "Hey, Elliot. Why would she apologize to you?" I asked. "Why were you even talking to her?" There was a pause. Then she sighed. "Because I knew." My stomach dropped. "You what?" "I didn't know everything," she said quickly. "Just that she'd been meeting someone. It came up at brunch. She didn't say his name, just called him a familiar face. I asked if it was an old friend, and she laughed, that kind of laugh where someone's hiding something. I knew it wasn't innocent, but I didn't have proof, and I didn't want to blow things up if I was wrong." "You didn't think to tell me? I thought you'd see it. I thought maybe you already knew. You're not stupid, Elliot." "No," I said coldly, "just trusting." The call ended not long after that, but the betrayal lingered. Not just from Renee now, but from the people around us. Friends who must have noticed. People who smiled at me while knowing something had shifted. The kind of shift you can't hide, unless you choose to ignore it. Later that evening, my brother Dean came by the cabin, uninvited. He brought beer and silence. We sat on the porch while the sun set and mosquitoes hovered near the screen door. "I told Molly she should have said something," he said eventually. "She wasn't the only one," I replied. Dean ran a hand through his hair. Look, I didn't know for sure. But yeah, I had a feeling. Renee was off. She dodged questions. Started skipping family dinners. I figured something was up, but I didn't think it was my place. And now? I asked. He looked me in the eye. Now I think I should have punched Micah in the throat the first time I saw him drive past your house. That caught me off guard. You saw him? Dean nodded slowly. Twice. Once outside the coffee shop. Another time he dropped her off. Thought it was an Uber at first until I saw him lean in and kiss her goodbye. I clenched my jaw. When was this? About a month ago. A month ago. Weeks before she asked for space. Weeks before she started sleeping in a bed that felt more like a stage than a home. It hit me all at once. I hadn't just been betrayed by my wife. I'd been orphaned by the truth. Surrounded by people who saw the signs and said nothing because they thought I couldn't handle it. Or worse, because they didn't want to be the bad guy. Dean leaned back in his chair, taking a long sip of beer. You gonna go back to her? No, I said too quickly. She came back. She begged. I turned her away. He raised an eyebrow. And how'd that feel? I thought for a second. Like the first breath after being underwater too long. That night, as I lay in bed at the cabin, I stared at the ceiling and realized something else. Forgiveness doesn't always begin with an apology. Sometimes, it begins with knowing who you are without someone, and who you can't be with them. But it wasn't over. Not yet. Because just as I started falling asleep, my phone buzzed again. A message from a number I didn't recognize. She's not telling you everything. If you want the truth, meet me. I stared at the message for an hour, heart thudding in a slow, uneasy rhythm. I didn't recognize the number. No name. Just that one sentence. She's not telling you everything. If you want the truth, meet me. It felt like bait. Like the kind of text that pulls you back into the fire you barely escaped. But something inside me, not anger, not desperation, just unfinishedness, made me reply. I said where? The reply came instantly. Old Garden Diner. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. I didn't sleep much that night. The diner was nearly empty when I walked in. Dusty windows, sticky menus, the same burnt coffee smell from 20 years ago. I found the man sitting in the back booth. Mid-40s, jeans, a gray sweater, and the tired eyes of someone who had nothing left to protect. He stood when I approached. Elliot. I nodded. He motioned to sit. My name's Thomas, he said. I'm Micah's cousin. I didn't speak. Just stared. He sighed. I wanted you to hear this from someone who doesn't owe Renee anything. Micah didn't care about her. Not the way she thinks. He brags about women. Keeps photos. Messages. Keeps everything. He's been doing this to marriages since college. My throat tightened. Why are you telling me this? Because I watched your wife fall for it. And unlike the others, she looked wrecked when it ended. Genuinely wrecked. She tried to contact Micah again 2 weeks ago after you left. He ghosted her. Deleted her number. She never saw it coming. He slid a flash drive across the table. Messages. Photos. Proof. Not because you need to see it, but because you deserve to own your truth. I didn't touch it. Thomas stood to leave. I'm not excusing her. Just giving you the rest of the picture. The parts she was too ashamed to show. I sat there for a long time after he left. The flash drive untouched, my coffee cold. I didn't need to open it. I believed him. And strangely, it didn't make me feel worse. It made me feel done. Like I'd been dragging around a question mark, and finally, someone put a period at the end of the sentence. I didn't go back to Renee. I didn't message her. I didn't need her apology anymore. Instead, I stayed at the cabin a little longer. I planted herbs in an old metal bucket out front. I hiked. I read books I hadn't touched in years. I wrote down what I wanted for once, not what I was afraid to lose. And slowly, quietly, I came back to myself. Months later, I moved into a small rental with big windows and too much light. I adopted a dog with nervous energy and a crooked tail. I joined a photography group, something I'd always wanted to try. And no, not everything is healed. Some days I still flinch at old memories. But now I flinch less. I breathe more. And Renee? Last I heard, she moved cities. Started over. I hope she found what she was searching for. But she won't find it in me. Not anymore. Because space isn't just distance. It's clarity. And when I finally gave her what she asked for, I found myself in the room she left behind. If you've ever found unexpected strength in the aftermath of heartbreak, tell us in the comments. Or better yet, share a moment from history when someone walked away and came back stronger. We'd love to hear it. You've been watching Reddit Confessions, where the hardest endings make room for better beginnings. Until next time.